Hey guys, it is Carly here bringing you your Tuesday review on Body Bags. It is week 240 and today I decided to go with a movie that I just picked up recently. It is one that I've definitely heard YouTubers talk about before and it has kept my interest ever since, but I kind of forgot about it and then I found it at a store, so I decided to pick it up. That movie is Otis from, I believe, 2008. Now, Otis is more of a horror comedy with, I would definitely say, more focus on the comedic aspects to it. To put it into words, it kind of reminds me of a mixture of a Tucker and Dale versus Evil and like a Hatchet film. It kind of takes that route with comedy where it's almost like a satire on the horror genre, because the story behind this movie is you have this dude, Otis. He kidnaps this girl from her family. He is a pizza delivery man, and one day he picks this girl up and takes her back to his house where she sees that he is a disturbed older dude who lives in sort of this fantasy world where he's this cool high school jock, and he likes to just pretend that he's going on dates with this girl. He has a nice car and he's pretending that they're driving down the road in one scene, and then he wants to take her to prom, which is them just dancing around in his house to some music from the 80s or 70s or 60s, and that's basically your thing. He's just like a disturbed man who lives in this made-up world that he created, and he just wants this kidnapped girl, or whatever girl he has kidnapped, because he has kidnapped several girls, you find out, and they all wind up dead. So he is technically a serial killer, and he just wants them to play along, and that's how they survive, because if they play along with what he is doing, then he doesn't get angry or anything like that. Meanwhile, you have this girl's family trying to figure out what happened to her. They hire like a crime investigator who is, really over-exaggerative and just really kind of annoying and trying to make things out to be more than they seem. Like saying, for example, there's a part where he's like, oh, yeah, the dude definitely raped her, but really that's not what happened. He's just trying to make a bigger story out of it and get a rise out of the parents. And, he's very much the comedic character in this. And the ending by the third act turns into a revenge film that has gone wrong. So that's kind of the gist of the movie. Going into it, I didn't really know that it was more comedic than horror. I thought it was just, I knew it had like some comedic moments to it just based on what the plot is. Sometimes movies like this are going to come off funny even if they aren't meant to be funny, but this one was definitely meant to be funny. It is definitely a sort of a satire on the horror genre, the like rape revenge movies, I would say, or the kidnapping, torture-y types of movies. It is definitely a play on that. You could definitely see how, real horror movies have inspired this dark comedy of a movie. Now, I gotta say, I really do enjoy the characters in this movie. I think Otis, that actor who played him, fits that sort of part well, the sort of dude who has a girl tied up in his basement part. That's kind of rude to say, but I feel like he could definitely pull off a character like that. I know the actor hasn't really done much else, but he would definitely be able to pull off a more serious role like that if he wanted to. You also have people like Daniel Stern, who I didn't even realize it was him, who plays the dad, and, the mom character. They're both, pretty comedic throughout it. And then you have the crime dude who, I know he's been from TV shows such as Bates Motel and Breaking Bad. He has a very familiar face. He is definitely the most comedic part about this movie. Just he's so overly exaggerating on things, and it comes off as kind of annoying and over the top at times, but I still very much enjoy it. It was actually, kind of a laugh out loud type of horror comedy, and I know I've said it many times before, I'm not a big fan of comedy in my horror because a lot of times for me it just does not work. I do like to have a good laugh. I am not a totally bland person, but if I'm watching a horror movie, it either has to work for me, or if it just comes off as cheesy, then it's kind of a waste of my time, because I'd rather just watch a full-blown horror movie than a horror comedy if the comedy elements are not going to work. But for this movie, it definitely does work, and I do enjoy the story. I kind of wish he would have spent a little more time where the girl is kidnapped with Otis, because, you know, you have some parts going on, but then you also get a lot of stuff is just sped up through. Like, it's kind of like trying to flash forward you through time a bit up until when the girl finally escapes, which, you know, it's not really a spoiler. That's kind of what happens, and then the ending turns out how it is. Yeah, it's definitely got some gore and blood and things like that. I will say there is like a torturous part that has some, you know, it's kind of brutal. It's got some just good blood effects and gore in it, so I do have to give it that. Even though it's more comedic, it does have some brutality in it, and it's overall I really enjoyed it. It is definitely a good horror comedy. I had trouble figuring out what to rate it. It's kind of hard to talk about this one. I find that horror comedies are things that you really just have to see for yourself, because, you know, they're not really to be taken too seriously or anything like that. Another thing I will say, it does have a great soundtrack. You know, you have songs like Don't Fear the Reaper in it, and some other good songs from like the 70s or 80s time period that this dude keeps playing throughout his house. So I did enjoy that, and overall good characters, definitely fit the parts, definitely some great comedy to it. I did smile and laugh a few times while watching it. I love how it does pay good, I forget the word, but it shows respect, pays respect to other horror movies, I guess you could say. You could definitely see the inspiration throughout this film, and I was leaning between like a 7 and an 8, so I'm going to give it a 7.5 out of 10. Definitely check this out if you're a fan of well-made horror comedy movies. Once again, that is from 2008. I don't hear a whole lot of people talk about that one, but I have seen it brought up a few times, so that is why I wanted to review it. So 7.5 out of 10 for Otis. Thank you guys for joining me for this review, and I will see you next